It's Wednesday, it's Rog, and what have we just witnessed? A reminder that football makes a fool out of all of us, constantly reminds us that we don't know what we don't know. I'm talking about the final of the Europa League tonight in Dublin. What a game. What a stunning, jaw-dropping twist in the tail. What an outcome. Who saw this coming? Ecstatically addicted to winning Leverkusen. Let me remind you, in case you didn't know, everyone knew. They were unbeaten in 51 games this season coming into this game, facing up to one of the sweetest darlings of European football, Atalanta. Themselves a magnificently overachieving buccaneering team who on this night swaggered to glory, delivered a sucker punch to Leverkusen, handing them their first defeat of the season in a magnificent game, one propelled by the goals of Ademola Lookman. I don't know how to explain this. We'll talk about it. It would be as if Dwight McNeil just scored a hat-trick in the game we've just witnessed. Probably Dwight McNeil's brother scored a hat-trick. We'll get to all of this. This was a joy, though. It was an honour. A real spectacle. Huge respect to both sets of fans who made this, honestly, what European competition should be about. Two teams, neither of whom going into this season would have ever said for sure we're destined for a final. But two teams who attack every single game with a fortune favours the bold kind of spirit. We're going to break the game down together, touch upon the latest from Chelsea. Pochettino, where are you going, man? Talk about where you are, dear listener, dear viewer, on the potential next manager of Chelsea list, and whether you'd like the women's job or the men's job, it's up to you. We'll talk about Vonson Company to Bayern Munich, which I am not making up. This is not fan fiction. It seems to be happening. As well as the latest at Liverpool Football Club and Manchester City, as well as Emma Hayes' arrival in the sweet US of A. And we're not here alone. This is a Do It Live, which means you, dear GFOPs, can be part of this show. Come on up. Talk to me about football or life. Just scan the QR code in the top left of your screen. You're getting to a Zoom with our producer J-Dubs, who is working quite hard at the moment. We are quite frazzled, but we are delighted to get you up here with your question. Come and be with me. We'll get to those questions in a minute, but get in line now because I'd love to hear your voice. I really, really would. And if you can't wait, get in the chat. Give us a like. Come be with us, baby. I do want to start by making a toast, though. Raising my first Michelob Ultra of the day. Best Mickey since Arteta. To news yesterday that the iconic Toni Kroos will retire at the end of the Euros after 10 years at Real Madrid, aged 34. Toni Kroos, I really think about him as your favourite footballer's favourite footballer. A man nicknamed by the Brazilians that he played with, Garçom, for the way he just relentlessly, consistently, magically serves up strikers. My dad, Judge Ivor, always had a life mantra, which he's actually living even in the darkest moments right now, which is stop at the top. That was always his phrase, stop at the top. Leave the party at its peak, finish something while it's still going great. Don't push on past that until it's just, just the diminishing marginal returns. And what I admire so much about Kroos, whose news has shocked his teammates, I think Vinny Jr. talked about being shocked and gutted. Well, so many things I admire, to be honest, his career as the dominant midfielder at Real Madrid, the dominant team of the last decade, but mostly not heading off to a retirement league, which is, just saying, I'm going to leave at my apex, a Champions League final, and then the Euros with Germany. He said, when I leave Madrid, I leave football. Ending a career in which he's won a World Cup and 5 Champions Leagues, chance of a 6 the weekend after this. God bless you. Toni Kroos leaving football with a mic drop. And talking of Toni Kroos, early hot take in the chat here. Trickshot says, if Madrid end up winning the Champions League, there's not a doubt in my mind that the Super Cup will be mint. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if Atalanta smoked Madrid. We will talk about Atalanta right now, because tonight's game, Atalanta 3, Leverkusen 0. Yes, I just said that. Leverkusen 0. What a Europa League final. 140 games of football had led to this. We'd expected Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool to be playing tonight. We'd expected one of West Ham, Brighton and Hove Albion, Milan, Benfica, Roma, Sporting Lisbon, Jordan Hendo's Ajax maybe to be there. All of them gone, needing the down belows. So we knew we'd have a new winner tonight. And we did, didn't we? Can we admit we thought it would be Leverkusen, the team that cannot lose this season? Historic achievement already, 51 straight games without tasting defeat. I mean, it's statistic defying, it's data defying what they've achieved. They have been mental monsters. 18 times after the 90th minute this season, they have scored a goal. 18 bloody times. They have summoned the ability to turn draws into wins. And losses into draws. Honestly, it sounds like what it is, a biblical miracle. That's what watching Leverkusen has been. Going up against Atalanta, the team before this that were heralded as a team that could never win a final. The coach, that grand footballing idealist, Gian Piero Gasperini, had lost all 5 finals he'd ever been in. I mean, woe is me. However, they too, in this era of football in which money determines everything, have so much to admire about them. They built themselves into this counter-attacking wonder of football, aggressive, fearless, audacious in their own right, although we didn't feel it. We did not feel that before kick-off. We just knew, what had they won in their life? They'd only ever won the 1963 Coppa Italia. That is it. In their over the century of existence. And the game began in a frenzy. Atalanta opened up high up the field with their press. Leverkusen forced into turnover after turnover. This Leverkusen team, who were giving out incredible interviews before this game. To be candid, I'm not mocking these interviews. They were honest interviews. 51 matches unbeaten in all competitions will do this to you. I think it was Amin Adili who said, "We can't remember what it feels like to lose." That's an actual quote. And I thought about that in the opening 12 minutes of the game when Atalanta launched themselves down the right. The ball was worked to Zappa Costa, who cut back from the byline and found Ademola Lookman. I will get to him in 1 second, but all you need to know is 10 yards out, Lookman just jabbed the ball home. Really an exclamation point moment. As we lived it, one that reminded us that suddenly, yes, there are 2 teams in this final, and they can both roar. Ademola Lookman, a 26-year-old, broke through with Everton from South London, came to us from Charlton, kind of hyped at the time. In his debut, came on, I think, in the 90th minute against Manchester City and scored the final goal in a 4-0 rout. This really happened. I'm not making this up. Everton beat Manchester City 4-0. I'm pretty sure Tom Davis, God bless him, scored that day. And right after this goal, on his debut, Ademola Lookman, then still a child, immediately said, "Yeah, my dream is to play for Real Madrid." That was a choice. He never scored for Everton again in 3 seasons. Kind of shuffled around, found fleeting success. But to soar here in this moment, I can't imagine what that must have felt like. I do know Everton fans can't even enjoy this Atalanta fairy tale without being reminded of our own trauma and pain. But in that moment, we were like, this is no big deal. We expect this. Leverkusen are almost in their happy place. They love going behind. 42 victories. 97, I think 2 97th minute equalisers of a season. You can take a blow quite happily. You can take the taste of your own blood in your mouth and feel like, okay, now we dance. The pressure, Joe was almost on Atalanta in that moment. They still needed another goal to counter and overcome the 2 Leverkusen contractually obliged 90th minute plus goals that were inevitably coming, or so we thought. Instead, within 14 minutes, Atalanta doubled their lead. Lookman again, pouncing on uncharacteristic Leverkusen uncertainty, picked the ball up, charged towards Xhaka, a gentleman who has been a warrior this season, just an absolute bloody warrior. Suddenly levelled, humiliated with the nutmeg by Lookman, who then opened up his body, almost used gravity to be his guide to arc a perfect shot into the bottom corner. Stunning, stirring, sensational. counter-narrative wonder. Gasperini, God bless him, the Atalanta coach, punching the air on the sideline. And only then did I realise, oh my God, that man who has lost 5 consecutive finals, that man has turned up, rolled up to what is going to be the biggest game in his life, wearing dad jeans. I don't know how you say dad jeans in Italy. I wish Horncastle was with me now. Gasperini bringing back the dad jeans, wearing those dull old denims in a European final, really the ultimate mood. But now, he may love this, actually. There will be photos of Gasperini all over his house, all over his kids' houses, all over his grandkids, great-grandkids. This was great-granddad Gian Pirlo Gasperini, the great manager. This is when he won the Europa League. And they'll all be like, oh my God, he wore bloody dad jeans. I mean, I just love it. I wore a terrible outfit for my wedding to my wife. I regret it deeply. Gasperini did something pretty well up there that is the same. Those pictures, I doubt they'll haunt him like my wedding photos have haunted me. I'll just say, gold bow tie. Big bloody mistake. But what must have been going on in Leverkusen's mind? For them, so close to infamy in this season, the undented, invincible triple season within touching distance, but suddenly, almost, it was like watching a wire walker look down for the first time and feel the fear, the self-awareness, the panic, the pressure, a different kind of pressure. Atalanta suddenly seemed like almost like a member of the audience in a Houdini stage show. Who was invited up on stage, tie any kind of knot, put on any kind of change, whatever you want, to challenge the world's greatest escapologists to emerge unscathed, because that is what Leverkusen are. They are football's greatest escapologist. And tonight, this is when they realised they could not get out of every trick. Even though there was still so much more time to play, so much more football to play. And knew that Atalanta, if they kept up this frenzied press, that they would tire, they would drop their guard. So we all were like, what will Xavi conjure at halftime? This man who was a player, knew all about the experience of European Cup final comebacks, part of Liverpool's miracle at Istanbul Champions League victors in 2005. Alonso threw on Victor Boniface at halftime, bolstering his attack with a potent Nigerian who's been working his way back from an adductor injury operation. His presence ratcheted up the pressure. Atalanta began to sit deeper and deeper, try and soak it all up. By the way, Premier League fans tuning into Leverkusen for the first time must have been so bloody confused watching this. The vaunted squad began to cut really a confused and tetchy outfit, playing football filled with uncharacteristic mistakes. Atalanta turned the game quite intentionally, quite happily into a scrappy mishmash with a little side of time-wasting, shithousing, fouling Florian Wirtz at will, an increasing feeling of from Leverkusen of, do you not know who I am? In that second half, a building sense of frustration that was lanced in astonishing style by Ademola Lookman again. Picked up the ball on the left, shuffled, step over, then with his hammer of a left, just battered that ball into the corner calmly, ferociously, astonishingly. First hat-trick in a European final since 1975. It was beautiful watching Lookman in this moment. He's been on some journey to this point. And as the ball, seconds after depositing into the net, he just kind of calmly stared around the entire stadium, all 4 sides, almost soaking in the memory, soaking in the moment. It was beautiful to watch. An Everton reject stepping up in his biggest game. Honestly, I wrote in my notebook, I was like, oh my God, Beto's forthcoming Champions League final hat-trick is going to be chef's kiss. And that was that. Xabi Alonso knew that his 52nd game was a bridge too far. The first of the season in which he would finally play chess with death and lose. A run still historic, still immense. What Leverkusen have achieved this season, to me, is all that's good about football. Almost the antidote to Manchester City. Their imperious dominance, which is created in a very different way. This was invincibility too, but one done with humanity, with tactics, with intelligence and heart, and on a budget. We'll let history decide where they rank in the annals of the greats. The German Cup awaits this weekend. They play second tier Kaiserslautern. If they get the double, it's still a wondrous achievement. All of it, as I say, done on a budget with players deemed off the radar. in many cases, or cast-offs, with one epic comeback after another. Honestly, to Leverkusen and the footballing alchemy that they have conjured, that they've allowed us to witness. But for Atalanta, I'm so happy for them. This magnificent team, based in Bergamo, a prosperous region of northern Italy, but provincial. 114 years of history. They've honestly been, and content to be, also Rans for almost all of that time. But in 2010, they were taken over by a former Atalanta footballer turned retail entrepreneur, a man called Antonio Picassi. And he decided that he could transform the team, turn it into one with strategy, tenacity, force of will, that this team could go toe-to-toe with any in Europe, any of the financial powerhouses, and then some. Believe it sounds crazy, but he made real, starting with Gian Piero Gasparini, Mr. Dad Jeans, who brought in this idiosyncratic brand of buccaneering football. He'd honestly been written off, this man, as a naive disaster. He had a fleetingly brief spell at Inter Milan, where he was seen as somewhat of a joke. But he's rebuilt his image with this fast-paced run and gun, this overload creating football, and it's brought joy to an entire region. You've got to know, it also brought darkness. They mentioned this briefly on the comms during the game. You've got to remember, after a Champions League group stage, which was played in 2020, around the 16 game, I think February 2020, they had a visit from Valencia, just days before the true horror of the coronavirus grip on the continent was truly understood, and tragedy ensued. A game of football, an innocent game of football, ultimately turned out to be a vector for coronavirus, and Bergamo became Italy's capital of COVID, a town filled suddenly only with ambulance wails and of human hearts breaking. I think there was an estimated 3,000 deaths around the city, 17,000 throughout the region of Lombardy. And today, I couldn't stop thinking about this. Another European journey, but one that ends in joy. Ecstatically for Gasparini, the manager, who said in the past that his team's sole mission is to, quote, make the people of Bergamo smile again. And smile they will, watching their boys in black and blue with that trophy, now owned by Americans. Boston Celtics co-owner Stephen Pagliuca has brought this team. Gasparini has soared with his brilliant tactics. Scored tonight 3 times off 33% possession, an XG and expected goals of, I think it was 0.81. It's just bloody awesome. Performance that reflects a Bergamo that's strong, creative, resilient, overflowing with pride and courage. I think the town's motto is Berg Amo, with the emphasis on the ammo, meaning a place overflowing with love. So much love that no matter which club in the world you support, I hope that tonight Atalanta affirmed they'll work their way into your affections. God bless you, Gasparini. I can't wait for you to do 3 months at Chelsea in your jeans before getting the boot, which is a great segue. Very quickly, great question in the chat. Jeffrey Pazanesala says, Serie A back? Are we seeing a renaissance back to the 90s? By the way, there could be, I think, is it 8 European places for Italy if the results go right, which is just utterly bloody crazy. We'll have to get Horncastle on to talk about really the drivers. I mean, ultimately, we talked about this last time, which is there is deeply impressive football played in Serie A. The Premier League is almost punching itself out week to week. The fierceness of competition, the shattering mental and physical toll it takes. It's almost like the Three Bears. French football is almost too cold for PSG. The lack of competition just doesn't warm them up enough to compete in Europe. The Premier League is too hot. There's too much competition. These teams are shattered down the back end of the season. Serie A and Bundesliga, just right. Was that Mother Bear in the Three Bears? I honestly can't remember. Christina Stotts, hello there. Based on yesterday's Good Vibes episode with the mighty Sam Mewis, would you rather eat a German chocolate cake or a limoncello cake during a podcast? You know what? I'm going to Dallas tomorrow morning. And I think in my research, we found out, I may be making this up, but I'm pretty bloody sure I was going to read my research on the plane. I'm pretty sure German chocolate cake was invented in Dallas. I cannot wait to be in the great state of Texas we'll be back. But until then, this is Rod saying big love, Godspeed to all in Bergamo, Atalanta, courage.